Hello, my wonderful viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am very excited to get into our next reading, all about what surprises people about you. Now, when I was thinking of this question, I couldn't just think of like one group of people. So I've decided we're going to hone in on 3 different groups of people. People that are kind of strangers meeting you for the first time, people who are coworkers, may sort of know you mutually, and then your inner circle. And I kind of want to look at what surprises each of those people, each of those groups of people rather. So I'm really excited. I'm so excited for us to get kind of more info, and yeah, it'll be really fun. So we've got 3 piles here. We've got group 1, the beautiful Celestite. Group 2, we've got the red Aventurine. Huge block of that. And then lastly, we have group 3 with the Granite. So feel free to pick whatever pile speaks to you. If you're in one pile and it doesn't feel right, try a different pile. So I'm excited to see you there. Bye. Hello, my wonderful group number 1. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am super excited for your reading. Today we are going to look at what surprises people about you with this gorgeous Celestite. So if you chose group 1, this is going to be your reading. I want to start out and say that Celestite is a pretty spiritual stone. And it's funny because it kind of talks about how it's like they call it like the stone of heaven, right? There's a calm, gentle, uplifting energy. I'm really curious to see how that plays into your reading. But there is something strong about being psychic, activating that third eye, crown chakra, that might be relevant for you. And I'm curious how this kind of plays into the rest of your reading. I did also want to say, while I was channeling, I did get a lot of messages about summertime. So you could either have a birthday in the summertime, being a Cancer or Leo, don't have to, or this could be talking about that this reading might be relevant to you in the summertime. Again, this is timeless, so whenever you're watching, this can apply, but the next summer that you have coming up could be relevant to this. So very curious to see how this plays out. I'm actually going to live shuffle today. I felt like changing it up. And sorry, the camera just kept going out of focus. But part of what I wanted to focus on today was the different layers of how you surprise people. Who do you surprise and how? Because let's be honest, we're multifaceted beings, which means that we're naturally going to surprise people. And it might show up differently depending on who it is. So enough yapping. Let's get to it. I'm going to start shuffling, and I'm hoping my shuffling will help with the focus a little bit because it's a little bit weird today. But bear with us on that. So my first deck, I'm going to pull out a good old staple I love, our Archetype deck. And what I'm thinking is we're going to channel 3 different pools, okay? We're going to do strangers. I was thinking maybe coworkers, friends, sort of that like mid-range, like people who get to know you, and then the people who know you best. And this archetype is kind of meant to signify what surprises each of them about you. So let's get into it. All right. Pile 1. What surprises strangers the most? People who first meet pile 1. What surprises them the most? King. Love that. Sorry for the delay. Just wanted to fix the camera a little bit. All right, so for strangers, we first got King. All right, how about for pile one's kind of medium inner circle? Coworkers, this also could apply as well based on how I'm talking about it in this pile, that you are someone who sort of has like multiple levels of closeness in terms of like, you know, coworkers and certain friends may feel like they're very close to you, but maybe you might view it differently. So it's interesting how it came out. All right. Oh, surprises pile one's inner circle. All right. How is their inner circle surprised? Pile one. Spirit, how is pile one's? Ooh. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. This is really cool. Huh. I like this already. Femme fatale on the back. And then I'm just gonna pull a few energy cards just to kind of round out how each of these pools are viewing you, but I already have some thoughts, so excited to dive in. Spirit, please clarify how strangers view. Oh. Huh. Interesting. Caution. Okay. Spirit, tell me how pile one's intermediate circle, I don't know what I want to call it. Maybe you just have like a lot of circles, but coworkers, you know. Rejection. Interesting. Okay, let's do our final one for the inner circle. How about clarifying for what pile one's inner circle, what surprises them? Ooh, got rest. I'll take that. And anxiety came out in reverse. Do I want to take it? Maybe I do. Okay. I'm very intrigued by this already. Okay. Let's start channeling. So first and foremost, and I apologize if you can hear, we've got some snow plows outside. The Northeast got hit with a little bit of a snowstorm recently. But anyway, all right. So, very regal energy. So here's what I'm thinking is how it's surprising. So when I think of Celestite, right, there's this calm, gentle, uplifting feel, and I could almost interpret that as being your rising sign. Now it doesn't have to be, but I could see you either having like a Venus ruled, so like a Taurus or a Libra rising. I could also see you having a watery rising, so like Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces. But either way, there's something very gentle and sweet and kind about you. And so then I kind of see where there's some surprises here, because the way I see it is I think you're spiritually very powerful. And I think day to day you probably just, you know, you don't maybe see that in yourself, or if you see it, you're rather humble about it. But your energy doesn't lie. And I think that's what is very apparent to strangers. They feel this sense of unease, but not because of anything you've done. And I want to be really clear. You're kind, you're polite, you're easy to talk to. You're not even necessarily taking up a lot of space and trying to take up a lot of space. And I think that's why it surprises people so much how much they're intimidated by you, especially looking at strangers. I'm going to move these guys over just to focus in. It's almost kind of like the way I see it, and again, this is my personal feeling, is I think that even if people are not spiritual, I think they can still, on some level, sense spiritually powerful people. But they may not know that that's what they're sensing. And so I feel like there's this, and I think you maybe in the spiritual, like, you know, again, this feels like my spiritual pile. So if I'm going in this realm, I feel like this is something that follows with you, and if it doesn't resonate, try another pile. But what I do see is, I think that people may sometimes, you may interpret what seems like shyness from people as actually, or like coldness, as actually being kind of just a little nervous around you, being a little bit uncertain. Because there's something that's unspoken that you are able to project that very quickly reminds people that where their shortcomings are. I don't know why, for some reason I'm feeling like you could be like the captain of a sports team or something. I feel like people could be watching you play a sport or doing something, like either you're playing a game, but for some way, like, I don't know why if you'd be on TV, but hey, maybe this resonates for somebody. There's this unspoken, unchallenged authority that you have that you don't even have to acknowledge. And if that doesn't feel right, if you're like, what? I'm like, then it's spiritual. Trust that spiritually you're very, very powerful. And even if people can't put a word to it, they don't know it, they don't understand it, trust that they see it. And so I think pretty quickly people get this gut feeling of, ooh, I gotta watch how what I say around this pile. This pile doesn't mess around. And then I think in turn that probably makes people feel even a little more confused, because they might look at you and be like, but this person's so nice, why do I feel so intimidated or shy around them? I think there's just a side of people that you bring out in them because they're kind of surprised by your power, but probably also surprised by the fact that you don't need to wield it, you know, in the same way that other people do. I think that sometimes people that are the most powerful are the ones that are really humble about it, I would think, or kind of, quiet about it. You don't have to shout across the room, because sometimes the most powerful people in the room never have to raise their voice once. They don't ever have to, make people listen to them. People listen to them naturally. So you might find that, like, even when you're in public, like, strangers may come up to you asking you for directions or asking you for things, and or may sort of look to you to be like, I don't know, there's something strange going on you're on public transit, something weird's happening, and people are kind of looking to you as a source. But then I think simultaneously it might confuse people why they're looking to you. And the reason I'm getting that vibe is because of this gentleness, but also it could be related to your age. It could be related to your quote unquote status in life. Again, it's all very arbitrary, but the point is that, strangers may sometimes project their own expectations. So if they look at somebody and they say, why am I looking at this, I don't know, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, why am I looking at them for guidance and advice? And it kind of challenges their own assumptions of authority and their own assumptions of what they're supposed to follow, because they're all of a sudden very intimidated by you, and they're like, why am I intimidated by this person who seems super sweet? So that's really interesting. And then it kind of leans into this way with, I think what's really interesting is kind of this, and I like this double orange we have here. There's a humility when people get to know you. There's a kindness to you. The people that kind of are able to pass this are then able to see, oh, it's not a facade. Like, the vibe that I got about this person being kind and gentle wasn't just an assumption. They really are. There may be some element of you almost rejecting the expectations that people might place on you, or the ways that people may kind of put you on a pedestal. I feel like you are maybe surprising people by how much of a team player you are. I could imagine in the workplace, maybe with an energy like this coming in, you are quite others focused, despite the fact that you could use, when you look at these shadow attribute, right? It's rulership without restraint. It's excessive feelings of entitlement. You then surprise people who get to know you on a deeper level because you are nothing like that in your day-to-day. And so it makes people kind of wonder, like, why does someone like pile one reject or refuse the power that they could have? And it's not because, and again, everyone's going to be different, but I don't think it's because you don't want to have power or you don't want to have recognition. I think it's that you are so devoted to others in your day-to-day. This could be a job that you have, or just in how you treat people, that you don't even feel a need to hold on to that, or to maybe even see that. You may not even see that. Again, this could surprise you to know that people view you in such a high regard, just upon meeting you, just upon viewing you, witnessing you, kind of just, getting a peripheral view, right? But then it becomes even more shocking when they realize that you actually don't care about the clout or the, I guess I'm using the word clout, but it could literally be anything, right? You don't care about the prestige. You don't care about the recognition, the honors, the this and that. You care about doing good for the world. And I think that, like, in the workplace, that probably shows up as, like, you're not expecting, you give credit to other people at work. You're very accommodating, and you don't make things about yourself. I think in some ways people may feel sometimes like they're a little bit at arm's length distance from you, in the sense of, they don't fully get it. You're surprising them more and more, and they love the surprises, but there hasn't been a full circle moment until they get to know you deeper. And that's where I really love it. They really come to understand that you know your power. It's not that you don't know your power. It's that you lead with humility. And I think that's what I kind of feel like. I see this process of someone getting to know you and saying, wow, this person's really, like, top notch. They're like, they must really think they're all that. Then they meet you. Oh, wow. No, they're incredibly down to earth. They're very humble. They're not at all bragging or anything. So then, there's this doubt in this moment of, oh, well, maybe that other piece was a facade. Because the people that know you best say, no. We were right the first time, but now we get it. Now I understand it better. I think you probably find that the people who you probably feel misunderstood by external people, or people that know you on a surface level, and you probably feel much more understood by the people who see you, the people who understand that there's been a lot that you've had to overcome, anxiety that you work through, that you push through. It might surprise them how much of an introvert you really are at your core, and the fact that you really do need time away. And I also think it may surprise people how peaceful you are at your core, because I think people may expect, I think sometimes people, and again, this is the people who are deserving to see you through these phases and to see you in this power, right? But I think that people may think it's too good to be true. There must be something going on. They must not, whatever, or, oh, this must be a facade. This is a facade, or this is a facade. And then it surprises people, particularly when they get to know you. And again, I don't want to say that people that are coworkers or friends think that you're putting on a facade, but again, there's still this confusion, this level of, like, whatever it is that I thought about this person, they keep surprising me because they're not what I thought they were. And then the queen is here to say, well, actually, you were onto something. I am quite powerful. I do have a lot of strength and power and spiritual power, really. But to actually have that, to create that, requires a lot of inner peace and isolation and introspection. And so it might surprise the people closest to you to realize how hard you work for these other two pieces to come together as seamlessly as they do. And it's, you know, at Pile One, I have to give you props because you make it look easy. And that's why it's surprising people. But I can almost guarantee, even though I don't want to assume your experience, I can almost guarantee it wasn't easy. And so to just show up with this like gentleness again, I think of the Celestite here, right? This gentleness, this kindness, this warmth, and this like groundedness, right? This spiritual knowledge, yet it's all come together through hard work of your own, not calculated work, right? Because again, I think this is where strangers just might be surprised by how much they respect you. And I don't mean to say that in a weird way, but I feel like there's something about you that in your day-to-day 3D life, whether I was saying like age, experience, maybe your job title, maybe your background, whatever it is, it might be something that wouldn't make people normally think that you are above them, right? So I find that really, really interesting. I really, really like this group. I like the energy here because I feel like the girls that get it, and the girls that don't. That's what I want to say about this group. Is the more you peel back the layers, the more you understand Pile One. But it's such a fun little, like, it's almost like reminding me of those Russian dolls where, oh, there's another surprise. Oh, now there's another surprise. Oh, now there's another surprise. And it's really meant for the people who, you feel safe with, to really see the work that comes to get the rest of this. Yeah, Pile One, I really like this. I'm going to pull a few tarot to finish up here, for us to just sort of get a full scope of everything. But I'm really enjoying this so far because I feel like you are showing up in a really cool way. So let's go ahead and check out your tarot. I'll be right back. Welcome back, my Pile One. I actually wanted to keep your oracle cards on top just because I really liked how these archetypes sort of played out. I did also want to add, I think there is a wonderful blend between masculine and feminine energy again. It seems like your work or the things that you do are sort of what anchor you. But again, everyone can kind of get a sense that there is this really beautiful blend both of feminine qualities, masculine qualities. There's no gender being applied. I think we all have both, and in different amounts. But yeah, I think there's a really, really cool quality here. So what I was hoping to do was I was going to do one row for each of these categories for tarot of what people would tell you surprises them. And then we're going to do a row of what secretly surprises them. I really want to get into the nitty gritty here. And then we'll finish off with some tea leaf cards that I pulled already, just to sort of round out some of these surprises. And then I think that'll be our reading. So I'm really excited. Let's get into part 2. All right. So I'm going to shuffle on camera again for the tarot. Let me get that in here. Okay. Tell me what strangers would tell Pile One. What are surprises that they would tell Pile One about themselves? How does Pile One surprise people? What would they tell them? What would strangers tell you surprises them? Ooh, okay, we need just one card, please. What would strangers say surprise them about my pile 1? Ooh. Queen of Pentacles. Another queen. Yeah, that to me already just speaks of a very grounded energy. Oops. Should I go across or down? This is where I'm deciding. Let's go down, actually. There we go. What would be something about you that secretly surprises strangers that they might not tell you? It's pile 1's secret. Ooh. 8 of Pentacles. Here, let me pull this up so we can see everything. Gorgeous. Okay. Interesting. So I would say one thing immediately that kind of catches my eye is I feel like the thing that strangers or people that know you maybe less well would tell you is it's very clear from the get-go that you have a grounded energy to you that shows practically how abundant you are, if that makes sense. You know, I think what people might tell you is like either in the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak to people. There is a respectability, there's a grounded energy though. Again, if I got Queen of Wands, if I got Queen of Swords, I might be tempted to think something different, but with Queen of Pentacles, it's calming, it's stable. You know, you show up and I feel like it's surprising people, and what they would tell you is it's surprising them how much you show up like you have your ish together, really. You know, you either have the answer somebody needs, someone's in a store, they're looking for something. Oh, you know what to do. Oh, somebody's looking for parking and they got confused. Oh, you did that last week. You walk them through how to do it. There's very much of like a speaking from experience vibe to you. And so while it surprises people, and again, I know we were kind of touching on different reasons why it might surprise people, because maybe you're younger or you're older or you're quote unquote, you know, I don't know, for whatever reason it surprises people how much you've got your ish together. What people would not be likely to tell you, which I think is interesting with this 8 of Pentacles, is either A, how much work they presume you've had to do to get there. I think there might be thoughts of that, but again, people may not want to outright ask you, like, well, how are you walking around with this confidence or this sense of competence in who you are and what you bring to the table, and just this like unspoken, like, you know, like I just feel like for strangers it's like very clear, like you know who you are. But I think what surprises them that might be a little bit more of something that they take home to themselves is wanting to understand the work that goes into that, wanting, maybe also it speaks to maybe surprising them the amount of work that they would need to do in order to be at that level. What you do for work might surprise them. I don't know if maybe what you do at your job, or again, this just speaks to like maybe there's just profound wisdom, right? And then someone's like, oh, I just didn't expect my barista to give me all this wisdom. And of course, wisdom can come from anyone at any time, but it can surprise people when it comes from an unexpected source, right? The person that hands you your coffee or your tea drops a really cool quote that really sits with you all day. Yeah. And I think maybe how busy you are, maybe in certain ways people might feel like you've got places to be, things to do. They don't always feel like you can stick around for that long for them to even ask you questions about things. It's sort of like you're there and then you're not. And maybe to some extent people feel intuitively like they don't know that they can ask too many questions about how or the process behind it. That is really interesting. Okay, let's look at your coworkers, maybe some friends, that, you know, intermediate circle. Again, that sort of, they know you a little bit better than the average stranger, but maybe not that well, right? All right, what surprises pile one's intermediate circle, and what would they tell them? Oh my goodness. I want to take this one. Five of Swords, okay. Tell us what they might be less likely to share about what surprises them. Oops. What remains hidden about what surprises these people about pile one? King of Cups. Yeah. It's really interesting. Okay. Again, there's this hidden layers. There are these, just sort of under the surface. It's funny how it feels like with people that know you through work, know you through know you kind of maybe through friends, mutual friends, a friend of a friend. They know you, but you're not like inner circle, right? They might be able to recognize a few different things. I have a few theories here. One, you may feel like you get a lot of pushback, and perhaps that's something that would surprise them, that they would tell you is, wow, I'm kind of surprised at, I don't know how often people are quick to judge you or aren't giving you the benefit of the doubt. Or I picture this as a pile where it's like, what would surprise friends that they would then want to tell you is probably like, oh wow, we do see that there's a lot of drama around you, but what feels validating in that is like, it doesn't feel like people seem to recognize it's not you. It's like, oh wow, there's a lot going on around pile one. They've got a lot to deal with. Maybe you have challenging family members. Maybe you have challenging circumstances in life. And I think that the people that kind of know you would be like, wow, you know what? There's a lot that you deal with, that you shoulder, that you don't complain about. That doesn't always seem fair, but you just take it with a smile and you keep going. You might be that coworker who, has something really annoying or bad happen and you're pretty chill about it, or you don't complain a lot about it. And I think for some people that really feels like, oh, that is really surprising given how much you deal with. Maybe you have a high conflict workplace, or your job requires you to mediate between a lot of people. But either way, I think there's something that they would speak to about you not having it easy in some way. Now, what I think is interesting about the King of Cups, again, it just feels like people are a little bit afraid to dive too deep. And it's not because of anything you're doing wrong. I think it's because they know that in order to be able to deal with this and hold this energy, there has to be a lot of wisdom and depth and emotional maturity that you naturally would have developed, right? So there's kind of this unspoken thing where people just know, they may not know exactly what, maybe they don't always feel comfortable asking you what, but they know that there is some sort of depth, some sort of, dare I say, almost emotional authority. That feels like a weird word to use, but it kind of feels like the right one, where it's like the reason why you don't sweat the small stuff, or you're not worried about the conflict that, is going on around you or that's happening. Not to say that you don't care about it, but it's just more that it's not rattling you, is because you've got this inner depth this inner authority, this inner kind of, this internal compass that has led you through this. You may have these moments where you might say something that someone's like, wow, that's really deep. How did Pile One come up with that? Again, I'm not, and this is a reading for all ages, but I just keep getting this feeling of someone who's a little bit on the younger side talking to a coworker and talking through with these words of wisdom that make maybe the older coworker like think, where the hell did they get this knowledge from? Like, where did they get this sense of perspective? And so I think there's almost this knowing of like, it had to have been something heavy, or it had to have been something pretty profound. So maybe for some people, it's not worth delving into that with you, right? It's not worth poking around. And maybe that's a form of respect for some people, right? Of like, they don't want to dive in, they don't want to dig into your business. But kind of just lingers as an unspoken thing that they just know. They know something's deeper there. They just don't know what. But it never ceases to surprise them when looking at you as a whole, how it shows up. Interesting. Alrighty, well, let's see what the people that know you best think. Because I can't help but feel like we're getting closer. We're getting warmer. Alrighty, what about the people that are closest to pile number one? What would they tell them? Okay. Oh, where did these cards all flip over from? Okay, let's put that back. What would the people what would the people closest to pile one say surprises them? What would the people closest to you say surprises them? Can we just do one card, please? What would the people closest to you say surprises them? Okay. Two of Swords. Okay, now what would they secretly say surprises them? The Hanged Man in reverse. Can I see if this wants to be upright or not? Okay, it wants to be in reverse. Temperance on the back. Okay. This is interesting to me. So it feels like the closer people get to you, the more of a sense they get of your thought process, your thinking, how you process the world. And that seems to be what surprises people. I could see there being some Aquarius energy. I don't know if that resonates for some people, like Aquarius moon or something, but the way I see this is I think what surprises people is the fact that you're not afraid to make difficult decisions. You're not afraid to choose something different. And I think what's really cool about that is, sometimes I think when we are a little bit more gentle, more calm, this and that, right? Sometimes that can get misinterpreted as passive. And sometimes can get perceived as letting things happen to you, right? And just being lucky. But what you show the people around you is that's not luck. That is strategy. It's thinking outside of the box. It's like, I just get a very strong feeling that you've had to make a lot of decisions on your path. And I think as people get to know you better, they start to see how intentional things are, how intentioned you are, that you don't do things without thinking them through, but you also are willing to take a risk even if you don't see where it'll take you yet. And oftentimes people will see this queen energy, right, and not realize what it took to get there. So I think that that's where people that get to know you closest, again, you know, from the get-go, you seem like someone who has your ish together. You've got, you know what's expected of you. You know what to do. You know the drill, right? And you present accordingly. People seem to not know how to ask you how you got this. I think the people closest to you start to get a hint at the fact that there's a certain level of bravery that's required. But I think what they sometimes are not sure if they can ask is how it came to you, is what I'm getting. Like, did you have a dream? Did you feel like you had some intuitive hit? Did you, I don't know, pull a tarot card? I'm about to say a tarot card. Did you go to a therapist? Like, people just, I think there's a curiosity for the people that are closest to you to understand how you got the inkling, how you got that little gut feeling to take the next step, to make the move that you needed to, that now kind of provides you with the success, right? There's a lot of questions and a lot of surprises around your process, your way of doing things. I think you may have an unconventional way of doing things. That's why Aquarius moon kind of came out for me. But again, there's a depth that people may not always know if they're willing to ask the questions to get there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Hanged Man, is Hanged Man Pisces? Oh gosh. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but there could be Pisces energy as well. But again, I think there's this piece of like people wondering, do they just get lucky? Do these things just come towards them? Are they just so peaceful? And it's like, there's a depth. There's a reason you got there. There's a reason you have what you have. And maybe you're just someone who doesn't always share that. And maybe this is a way to encourage you to say, hey, the people closest to you would love to know. People that you trust, feel free to share with them how this came forward. Maybe there's, you drink a tea at night and you have a practice that you do that helps you, that gives you this wisdom, that leads you to kind of know intuitively, or you have a dream journal where you write down everything you dreamed about. You kind of getting the gist here, where I'm thinking it's just providing, maybe there's just ways, and again, you don't have to overdo it, you don't have to give away all your secrets, but maybe there are ways that you can let people in and let them know what it took to get here. Because I think you may find that people may actually come to understand you a little bit better when they recognize the journey you've taken. And I think the people that have gotten to know you the best have been able to integrate all of this most. But there's always surprises in us, right? So it's kind of that constant evolution where we figure out that balance of how much do we want to share with people, how much do we want to disclose versus not. And it's kind of that, push and pull, right? Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to pull out the remaining T cards. I pulled out 7. And I'm just curious what they say. And this is going to kind of round out our reading. So what surprises people about pile 1? Carriage, a journey, either physical or mental. What'd I say? Needle and thread. A sincere wish will be granted. Quill, get back to the basics. Desk, pay attention to your work. Leg, stepping into a new experience. Good advice from a wise person. Owl. And barrel, you feel something is lacking in your life, perhaps love, money, or goals. It's funny how I was going to pull 6 and then the 7th one just kept flying out. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, this is just right on the nose here, right? People see the result. They don't understand the journey it's taken, but they know there has been one, right? People also see, and maybe what surprises them is the fact that you're rewarded. You know, you might seem like, oh, you have this dream life, but what comes with that is the fact that you're willing to step into new experiences. And it makes people ask themselves, am I willing to take the same risks as pile one to maybe get a reward? And I think you kind of challenge people's mental limitations to ask themselves, is it that pile one? Again, if people were misunderstanding you, they might say, oh, you know, pile one just has it all. They just are so lucky. Everything comes to them so easily. But what they don't see is, and what might surprise them, is understanding the feelings of lack that you may have in your own life. And the fact that, you know, it's so funny with quill and owl, right? It's like a quill from an owl. I think we can call that a quill, right? I guess like a feather from an owl. Again, I feel like when you give wisdom to people, you kind of give them, like you give them a little quill, you give them something for the road. And I think it would surprise people because of realizing how far you've come, especially the people closest to you, how much you've had to fight for, that when they see that generosity in you, they're like, dang, pile one had to go through all that and they're still kind and generous, and they still, when possible, try to give me, you know, a little tidbit of their knowledge, or they try to give me a little tip or a heads up about something. And it's like, you look out for people even when you you don't have to, but you do anyway. And I think when people understand your story, when they know what it's taken to get here, when they understand the level of like strength it takes to take risks and to try something different, even when you may actually be having feelings of lack, and to be willing to give so readily and to provide insight and knowledge to others, I think that really rounds out who you are, which is that you have a tremendous wealth within you. It doesn't have to be material, it could be, but more so in terms of your emotional, spiritual, soulful depth, right? And you've had to work for it, which then I think in turn surprises people and gives them additional respect towards you, because they're like, dang, someone like pile one could have made all these changes, done all these things, and kept it all for themselves. And yet here they are looking for ways to share this with others, looking for ways to support others, and, you know, to work hard at what they're doing. And yeah, I feel like pile one, I think, you know, you don't have to say a lot. I don't think you really do. I think your energy speaks for itself, and then it's time that does you the best favor. Time is really what works in your favor, because people see over time you weren't just saying something, you weren't just pulling something out of your, you know, like whatever, right? You meant it. You're talking about these things, you're talking about advice because you've been there. You're talking about these things because you've already dealt with it and you've struggled with it yourself. So it just brings this wisdom and this like inner knowing that I think if people are not attuned to you or are not aligned with you, they might view it negatively, or find issues with it, or, you know, kind of find excuses, right, to write you off. But those aren't the people that are going to connect and bond with you. It's the people here who come to see you and understand you and can in turn be good to you in the way that you are to them. Pile one, what a hefty reading. I love this. What a cool surprise to know that, you know, especially for people who may put you on a pedestal, to realize pile one also has insecurities. Pile one's dealt with that. And if they can do it, maybe I can too. Oh, I love this reading. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think I'm going to leave this here. Pile one, it was an absolute pleasure reading for you. I would love to hear how this resonated. If it did, please, you know, let me know in the comments. And I really hope to see you in the next video, and tune in because this energy is awesome. So thank you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're watching. Bye. Hello, my beautiful pile number 2. If you chose this red Aventurine giant slab, this is for you. All about what surprises people about you. I want to first just say this. It was funny because I was having a hard time identifying this rock, not because of the form it came in. It was a little bit more raw and unfinished, and sometimes that I feel like can make me confuse what rock it is. So there might be something about you that's a little bit unconventional or a little bit hard to figure out, but you know, red Aventurine represents vitality, action, manifestation, energy, confidence. Like there's something about you that's kind of that it person, it girl, it guy, it, you know, person, whoever, right? A bit of a can-do attitude. So I'm really curious how this shows up, because I found that in pile 1 there were a lot of contrasts in how this showed up versus the cards. So maybe you do have a fire rising, you don't have to, but Sagittarius, Aries, Leo, just something, yeah, fiery and passionate about you that I'm appreciating. I also channeled, I don't know if somebody goes by Sweetie or if you like the singer Sweetie, but that just came through for some reason. Alrighty, so I mentioned a little bit in the intro, but I'll kind of run through here. What I was doing for pile 1 and what I'm doing for each pile is shuffling one card to represent 3 different pools of people. So one being strangers, people who know you from the periphery, you know, and only have met you in those contexts. Then we got pile 2, which is maybe coworkers, people that may know you a little bit better, but may not be like inner circle. You know, friends of friends, acquaintances, people you're friendly with. And then here are people that know you best. And so we're just going to kind of compare what surprises each of them, and do a little oracle with it, and then we'll do some tarot. So let's get into it. I'm going to live shuffle today because sometimes I like the mystery of shuffling on camera. I love just channeling in vivo, if you will. So let's get started. Okay. Tell me about pile 2. What surprises strangers about pile 2? Child divine. Okay. Now, what surprises pile 2's coworker? Oh, should I take it? Yes. Okay. Companion. Now, tell me about people that know pile 2 best. What surprises them about warrior? I love the duality of this, you guys. Okay. We got shapeshifter on the back. Okay. And then I'm just going to do one additional oracle to clarify underneath. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just push this up a little bit here. There we go. Okay. Clarify strangers, what surprises them about pile 2. Okay, faith came out in reverse. I'm just curious. Movement. Okay. Tell me about what surprises coworkers, people that know pile 2 a little bit better. Energy. Okay. I'll put that here. Perfect. Can we see everything? Sorry, I want to just make sure everything's nice and clear over here. Alrighty, last but not least, what do people closest to pile 2 find surprising? lens. Oop, okay. Alrighty. Let's get into it. Okay. So this is what I want to say. I'm going to hold this. Alrighty. Let's start with strangers. So what I think is interesting is the fact that people find this innocence, this purity, this sort of spiritual side of you surprising. And I find that the faith in reverse is really interesting too. I don't know how much strangers would really know about your religion or faith or anything like that. So again, we'll interpret this a few ways, but you could possibly be a very non-spiritual person. And if you are in a tarot reading as a non-spiritual person, welcome. Lovely to have you. Or there could be a sort of dichotomy between this innocence, purity, this sort of spiritual connection, yet I don't know if strangers would have a reason to know why you may not have faith. I'm going to get a card to clarify this, just out of curiosity, if we can get a little more clarity here. Maybe it could also represent some strangers, and again, this isn't your fault, it's just what's surprising people. Maybe, I don't know, they see this and they don't trust it. They see this innocence, they see this sweetness, this like childlike joy, right? And they don't know how, they don't think they can trust it in you. But let's see if I can get some clarity on. Oh my goodness. Okay. Rest. It's funny because that did come out in pile 1. Interesting. Strangers may be surprised. Again, when we're contrasting with this, right, there's this confidence, vitality, this like assertion. Maybe people see you are expecting, based on your appearance, based on your energy, are expecting somebody who's very intense, somebody who is very go, 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 somebody who is super like maybe intense in that way. But you come in and there's this like fun, laid back energy, not attaching too much to anything around. People can kind of tell you're a good time, I think, from seeing you. And I think it may just surprise them. Like maybe you have, and again, everybody's different. Maybe you have RBF. Maybe there's something about your appearance. Maybe you have lots of piercings or tattoos that might make somebody think you're very serious, or might lead somebody to believe that when they start talking to you, that maybe they'll be intimidated by you. And then they meet you and they're like, oh my God, what a little like ray of sunshine. What a sweet little like, you know, surprise almost. I feel like there's something calming and like chilled about you, yet fun, and kind of that sparks joy. And I think sometimes people expect confidence to be paired with intensity, but a certain type of intensity. And I think you bring a very different type of intensity. You bring a spiritual intensity, but again, might make people question. Maybe people feel like they judge you, and maybe part of the surprise is when they do interact with you a little bit, like, you know, let's say this is a customer, or this is a, I don't know, somebody who interacts with you in some sort of workplace setting, or it's the cashier where you're checking out, whatever. For some reason, there's something in the surprise that you offer that humbles people, humbles them in their assumptions, maybe leads them to realize that they were pretty negative about you, or that they may view people negatively. And there's something about, like, I could even see this being a moment where, I don't know, somebody's rude, or a customer's rude, or I don't know, the server's rude. And maybe based on appearances or just their energy that they feel towards you that they're projecting, they're expecting you to give it right back to them. And instead, you're incredibly kind, you're warm, you're chill, you're not pressed. And that really surprises them. So I think there's this laid back energy that pairs with this red aventurine that just makes people be like, wait, you're intense yet soft. You are intimidating yet present and affirming, and like, you know, just have this optimistic view of the world. So it makes, I think, some people question their own sense of self in terms of like, look at me, I just judged this person, or look at me, I just snapped at this person and they didn't even like give it right back to me. And you offset people with your kindness. I think you disarm people with it. I think that you may find, and again, sometimes I find that like we will be put in situations where we encounter people who may have certain energies, and even if we pass by them momentarily, there's some sort of impact in our energies sort of colliding. And so I think in a lot of ways you might think you're just sort of passing by and you know, minding your business, and yet you've profoundly shifted how a stranger views the world from your 2-minute interaction. There's something very powerful that really just shakes the foundation for people. And you kill them with kindness. So I think that's where it's equally like shocking, right? Now we switch over here, right? We go over to your outer circle. It's funny because in pile 1, I was very called to be like, you know, call this pile kind of like your outer friends, or your this. And I don't even feel called to say that for this pile. So that makes me very much feel like you may have a tighter circle, or you may have just a closer circle that you could, you know, consider to be your friends, and those are your people. And then coworkers and other acquaintances might be more on the periphery. But what I do think is interesting is I think that, and it's funny because this does mirror pile 1, but in a different way, which is that you show up and are loyal, are unselfish, you put others first. And whereas a stranger may have been called to say, oh, wow, they don't have a worry in the world. They're just, you know, living by the, flying by the seat of their pants. They're just sort of living day to day. There's very much this element of like, maybe, you know, they first surprise strangers with that, but then they're quick to assume that that's all there is to you. And then people that work with you or that kind of get to know you realize what a good friend you are. And the vibe I'm getting from this though is people watching you be a good friend to other people, or like your coworkers seeing how you look out for your friends. Like I'm almost seeing like your coworkers hearing about you, like, you know, and you give your friends the family discount, or you show up for your friends in a certain way. Like it feels like this energy is very much like I see how you show up for other people. And maybe that's a surprise to coworkers and people that get to know you from this phase, because maybe at first they were like, well, pile one, I keep saying pile 1, maybe there's something there for you, but only if you feel called. Maybe pile 2, you know, they're just in their own world, they're in la la land, they're just doing their own thing. And then they're like, well, where I see this laid back childlike energy, I see this intensity show up in their friendships and their relationships and in the kind of person that they are with their loved ones. And so I think it's very clear to people, the more they get to see you, how much you put your loved ones first. And there's like it's funny because this warrior kind of peeks out with this energy, right? But again, there's not words to it. And right now it's just an oh my God, can I say the word attribution? Or they're attributing this energy to being loyal, being unselfish. It very much, this is going to be the most millennial thing I say. It is kind of giving me Hufflepuff in the sense of like, where you show up with the most energy is in the loyalty you show to others. And maybe that is surprising. Maybe even in your workplace, the amount of loyalty you've shown, or how supportive you are of coworkers and staff and clients or whoever, right? The energy you put into your relationships is what surprises people. And I can imagine it probably makes a lot of people like kind of want to be your friend. I think this is where I see that clear delineation versus pile one, where you don't necessarily call the people in this realm friends, not because you have anything against them, but because this energy is reserved for people who are your closest. So this feels like a watching you demonstrate these traits. Now, for the people, let me say this, the people who are, I'm going to say, lucky to know you closer and to know you deeper, they see the toughness, the strength, how hard you work, how much you've had to release, how much growth and healing you've had to do. And I think that it's so interesting how it's kind of mirroring this sort of laid back, chill, a little bit more energized, a little bit more intense. And it's at your core, I think, that you're the most intense. Because, and I could see you having like a Scorpio moon or just Scorpio in your chart, don't have to, but just something very like deep and intense. And that's where that intensity, that spark, that energy come from. That's where that comes from. And it's come from failure. It's come from challenges. I think the people that know you know the work you've had to do to get all of this, to embody all of this. You might live by the water. You might spend time with friends around the water. I don't know why the ocean feels significant. You'll do anything to protect those you love. I think the people that are in your circle know that you have their back. You have their, you have the best of intentions towards them. You care about them. You show up for them. So there's this like tenacity that I think surprises the people that know you best, because of the kindness and the sweetness and the affection and love that you radiate in all these other ways. That I think it's only through that when people are able to see this, they can appreciate all of this that much more. I think it's probably surprised them how many different versions of yourself have come through, have grown and developed to get you to where you are. Your external makes it look really easy, makes it look really light and breezy and fun, but that's far from the truth. And so I think when people get to know that about you, that's when they really realize how little they've known all along. And that's not to say that they felt lied to or deceived in any way. It's more that they feel almost honored that they get to see that part of you, to be able to then have respect for everything else that comes with it, even more respect. Because it's one thing to show up loyal and show up unselfish, show up innocent and pure. But if you don't have the life experiences to back that up, it can feel naive. But you don't come across that way. There's this inner knowing. And again, that's where this faith, people question themselves. Strangers really find themselves questioning because I think they may make assumptions about you. They may write you off in certain instances. And then they realize really quickly why they shouldn't. I love this energy. This is a really cool vibe. Okay, So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull these cards up. I really liked keeping them for pile 1, keeping these little archetype cards, but instead I'm going to swap out. I'm going to shuffle some tarot cards here as well as some tea leaf cards. So I will be right back. Hello, pile 2. We are now going to get into your tarot. I'm going to shuffle on camera. And what I'm thinking, what I did, I really like this for pile 1, is under each, lane that we have here, the 3 different layers of people that know you, we're going to explore one thing that surprises them that they would tell you, and one thing that they might keep secret, or that might be kind of more low-key thing that they may not share with you that surprises them about you. So I'm very curious to know what this is all about. So let's start with our strangers over here. What surprises them that they would tell pile 2? What surprises strangers, Spirit, that they would tell pile 2? Ooh, okay, let's see. Death in reverse. Interesting. Let me pull out this other one just in case. Oh my goodness. I'm not taking that one. Let's do this one more time. What's a secret surprise that they may not tell pile number 2? What's a secret that they may not tell pile 2 about surprising them? Oops, my goodness, the cards just want to fly out. I feel like there's a lot under the surface with this pile. Okay. Oh, okay, I'm taking this one. Okay. It's really interesting because the vibe I'm almost getting from this immediately, this is the death reverse and 5 of Cups reverse. It's funny because what I'm first off getting, if I just were to start off the bat, I don't know if there would be a reason why strangers might know like your story or know about you. I don't know if you're like, I don't know if you've written a book or you're a public speaker or you've shared parts of yourself with them, but there is something surprising in, if I were to take it this quite literally, how lively you show up in the face of pain. And again, this is where I'm like, how would strangers know this? But again, this could be that maybe your reputation precedes you. This is a friend of a friend of a friend. People kind of talk about you. What is shocking is how much you defy the norms when it comes to, I don't know, just a certain level of pessimism. Like you just show up with a brightness, with a joy, and it feels antithetical to the surroundings around you. So what I mean by that is you could be working, I don't know why I'm getting like someone working in a hospice or someone working in a really like serious setting. You could work in mental health or as a nurse or first responder, whatever. Work in some really serious situations, and yet you carry this lightness with you. And so I think what's secretive, and maybe what's a secret pondering, is people are like surprised, like, what has this person been through? Or if, like I said, for some reason they know what you've been through, how did they get through it? How do they show up like this with all of this? So there's this sort of mysticism, this surprise in how you show up that's either in contrast to either the field you work in or the setting that people run into you in. Yeah. There's just this lightness and this joy that exists that I think intuitively people know, but are maybe afraid to ask how that came about or how much hardship must have come for you to carry this with the amount of confidence that you do. That's very interesting. I want to kind of get into these vibes because I have a feeling they're all going to kind of tell me a story. So let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Okay. Tell me what surprises people in that, you know, in this second pile. Let's just reshuffle this real quick for pile 2. What's something that surprises them that they would tell pile 2 for this? Coworkers, people that kind of know you on the periphery, acquaintance. Whoa. Okay. I feel called to take that card, so let's see what came out. Temperance. Of course. It tracks. Okay, I just want to make sure everything's on the screen. I'll just go like this. There we go. So then what are they afraid to mention? Or, oh, that came out. I don't know, maybe they're afraid to mention it. What are they surprised about that is kind of being kept secret from you? Oh, okay, let's see. 9 of Swords. Yeah, the strong vibe I'm getting from both groups, and again, this is going to be different for everybody, but either it's like the setting you work in is very stressful, the environment you live in is very stressful. Some way, somehow, people know you bring forth a lot of balance, but there is a lot of anxiety and worry and pain that has come from that, or that you've had to overcome, or that you overcome on a daily basis. Again, like I said, if you work, I don't know why hospice is what came up, but again, it could be anything, where you just show up and where someone else could be overtaken with anxiety or be riddled with it to the point where they can't perform what they need to or do what they need to. You still show up with clarity, with balance, with stability. Again, always loyal and having the right, you know, focus. So I think intuitively, like I've said before, people just know there's a reason you've been able to develop this. People do not develop resilience unless they've had to, right? And so there's a resilience in how you show up because you choose joy when it sounds like the circumstances that you're in would make that difficult. And what people are maybe afraid to broach with you is why that's the case. So I think that's really interesting. I want to look at people who know you best, because I feel like that will just continue to give us a more rounded feel for all of this. So let's see. Tell me about the people that know pile 2 best. What would they tell them surprises them? Also, I will say for this, maybe, you know, you've been open about having anxiety or having challenges with mental health, and perhaps people may be afraid to ask more about that, but they recognize that that must factor into how you show up in the world. So maybe there are people that would have questions but may hold off on asking them. But anyway, back to our inner circle. I just wanted to share that as well. That came through. Tell me about inner circle. What would they tell pile 2 surprises them? Whoa, okay. Let's reel this in. Two of Swords. So funny, this came up in pile 1 in this exact spot. Alright, what would they be? Maybe keeping secret about their surprises with pile 2. Maybe I will. Ooh, I like that these 2 came out because this gives me a little bit more clarity. Okay, we got 2 of Swords, 2 of Wands, and 7 of Cups, with the 7 of Wands in the back. Yeah, so what surprises people, again, it's so funny how this kind of mirrors pile 1. I'm not going to keep talking about it, but it does mirror it quite a bit. What surprises them is when you, I think some people closest to you may have been surprised when you did cut somebody else off, when you did end a certain relationship or end friendships or end connections, perhaps there's a certain element of surprise in your willingness to do that, given your loyalty and your general demeanor and your joy that you kind of radiate, that it may surprise the people closest to you to realize how many people you've had to move on from, how many people you've had to walk away from, how many difficult decisions you've had to make. But I think what they might be curious to know is how you did it, because I don't think you show a lot of the process. I don't think that, and I wonder if the people closest to you don't see a whole lot of weakness from you. And what I mean by that is maybe they don't see vulnerability all the time. And maybe they see it in how you approach the world, but when it comes to like your inner world, they don't always know your vulnerabilities. What confused you? What made this hard? What was challenging? Like, I just feel like you show up kind of as the finished product, which so many people, by the way, love how you show up. They appreciate your energy. It's warm, it's inviting, it's engaging, it's loyal, it's caring, right? And then there's this like surprising strength, I think, when people realize what you've had to do, who you've had to lose, things you've had to step away from to have that. And then in turn, they want to understand what I think on a, like, secretly, and again, I don't think it's that people feel like they can't ask you, it's that they don't know how to ask, or they don't know what the answer would be. And so wanting to understand, how did you get through confusion? How do you navigate, how do you navigate uncertainty? How do you deal with things being out of your control? And then with the Seven of Wands coming out on the back of the deck, it's like, how do you deal with all this pressure, all these things up against you? So I think there's a bit of a looking up to you in that way, while also maybe wondering, like, when does pile 2 struggle? And I just want to say, for pile 2, if you feel like you have to put on a certain facade, or you have to, play a role, I want you to know you don't have to by any means. It's okay to show up uncertain. It's okay to show up like you don't have it all together. And I think because I just see this as like the underlying kind of secret surprises, it's because people just don't see it coming, and they know that there must be more depth, but they just don't know what it is necessarily, or they don't know all the details, or they know bits and pieces, but they don't know how you got there. And pile 2, I want to let you know that it's okay to let people see that. And again, not everybody has to see it, but maybe the people closest to you, those that you trust, maybe it can be worthwhile for you to share times when you're lost, times when you're not feeling empowered, because I think it will sometimes allow other people to know that they can show up for you, when you always have it together, when you always are able to kind of put on a bright smile and a happy face on, right? Like, I think people know deep down there's more going on, might be afraid to ask. And maybe this is an opportunity, or this is a reading that's meant to just encourage you to know that it's okay to open up about those things, because I think people I think already respect you quite deeply, and I don't think you should share this. You shouldn't share parts of yourself for a reason, or for any sort of like positive, like praise or anything, right? But it is important for people that know you to know you're human, and to know your vulnerabilities, and to know that you need help too sometimes. And I just felt a need to say that for anyone that needed to hear it. But I also pulled out some tea leaf cards again to just round out what surprises people about you, and also if these are any signs that you see in your day-to-day that maybe this is an encouragement or a reinforcement of any of these messages. So we have kite, vacation, carrot, opportunity or windfall. We have happiness. We have feather. Someone you know is undependable and insincere. Chair, empty. Someone is leaving your life. We have handshake. A meeting with a stranger could be important. I almost want to put this here. And last but not least, we have table. Hard work ahead. So yeah, I feel very strongly, this again speaks to, I don't know, specifically maybe someone you meet on vacation, a stranger you meet on vacation. I think you may not realize the gravity of your interactions with strangers or in a day-to-day, just sort of, you know, light interactions. You might drop a fun fact or, I don't know, say something that like just totally changes how someone shows up or what they think about themselves or think about their situation. I hope you don't ever discount the power that you have even in those small interactions. What I do think is interesting with these two, someone's leaving your life and someone you know is undependable and insincere, I think this could speak to a few different things. I think this could speak to the situations or people that you've had to cut out of your life. I think this could also speak to previous experiences that you've had in your life, challenges or, you know, situations that have happened. But again, looking at this top row, right, you see vacation, opportunity, happiness, right? But something in your energy never lets people forget this bottom row, which is what makes this happiness even more surprising, this joy even more surprising, because it comes out of a place of survival. Not to be dramatic, and again, take that as it resonates, but I feel strongly for some of you that it really does come out of a place of needing to survive. And it's so funny because Red Aventurine does talk about being like a can-do stone. So I think that's kind of how you show up. You show up with a can-do attitude. And I think your positivity on its own is refreshing and surprising. But then it's even more surprising when you think about all the layers that you've had to go through, all the hard work, all the ways that you've had to show up for yourself. And it's funny because at one point I was channeling before I started this reading for you. And I was playing a song, and for some reason the lyric, and I wrote it down, was hard to see me down. And I think that's big for you because you continue to surprise people at every point in a more profound way each time. So you carry a lot of spiritual weight. I could see you being a pretty heavy, like spiritual heavyweight, honestly, like really carrying a lot of lessons for a lot of people, which may also mean that you may not always feel received positively, or you may feel like a lot of people project onto you. And I want to let you know that if that is the case, it is exactly that, projection. Because for those who've also been through a lot of hard things but don't show up with the same love and purity that you do, you are a walking reminder of the fact that, you know, you don't have to be defined by the things that happen to you. And you can still be a kind, good-hearted person even when things go wrong, even when you have hardship. For people who are very positive but may have not experienced a lot of hardship in their life, and again, hardship's different for everybody, whatever applies for you in your life, then they might also feel surprised by the fact that you've had to really work hard and fight for it, and that it hasn't come easily. So I think on both ends, you surprise people on two different kind of spectrums. And wow, I'm really I'm loving this energy, honestly, pile 2. I think you've got such a cool energy, and I would really love for you to comment and let me know who you are, because I think you're so freaking cool. I'd love to be your friend. So yeah, I think this is it for this reading. Please let me know how this resonated, and I would love to see you in the next one. All right, bye.